Hi everybody, Raging back with another Mechabellum video. Before we actually get into the video, holy smokes everybody. 3 days ago I'm shouting from the rooftops about how we crossed 250 subs. And now this morning, we're over 380. That's crazy. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate the support. It actually means so much that you guys enjoy these videos. Now if you like tanks going fast and shooting fast, that's the one I have for you today. So let's get into it. My opponent here is going Giant Specialist with Stormcallers and Fangs, and I am going Rhino Specialist with Sledgehammers and Crawlers. I've been using Sledgehammers a lot more recently, and so has everybody else. I see them all over the place. And so I decided I will join them in this one. So we're setting up on the line, as always. And my opponent here has some vertical Stormcallers. He has some Fangs behind the tower, some Fangs in front of the tower. He's making these little boxes here in front of the towers. Whenever someone is a Giant Specialist and they make these little squares like this on the sides and in front of their towers, those are like little areas where they can slot in some Giants. So I'm sort of suspecting Vulcan, Fortress, something that can kill tanks. So this is his deployment here. He has a Fang in the center and a couple of these boxes on the outside. And I'm still deciding what I want to do here. I'm trying to decide between getting some Fangs or just getting some more Crawlers. So I do unlock Fangs and I grab a Fang and I just slot it in between the Sledgehammers. I like to leave a space of 3 in case I have to fit in like Scorpions or Wraith or something. And then I just grab another Crawler. So Sledgehammers do have a pretty tough time getting through lots of Fangs. So that's why he's built all these Fangs. But the Crawlers are starting to squeak their way through everything there, which is pretty good. So we probably will be able to take the tower and hopefully turn and clean up a lot. But the second pack of Stormcallers will be tough, so let's see how we do here. Yeah, we're getting kind of smoked by them now. But we are taking some of them out, and actually, we almost actually take the rest of them out. So not too bad, just a couple survive. Round 2, the deployment module is one of my favorite items. Being able to move a unit, I think, probably is one of the strongest things you can do in this game. We both take it. He picks up a Rhino on round 2, which is aggressive. And he's going for my tower here on the left. Deciding which unit I want to put my deployment module on. Now, my opponent decides to immediately put the deployment module on the Rhino. I don't think that you have to do that. Like, if his plan is to use it on the Rhino, he did just get the Rhino this turn, so why not just put the Rhino there, save the deployment module, and then see if you need to move it or not on the next turn. You know what I mean? That's my thought. So I think putting it on the Rhino is a little overcommittal. I do move the Sledgehammers from the right to the left here, and actually something kind of lucky happens. I'm kind of anticipating him grabbing like a giant, like a Vulcan. I kind of think he's going to get one. And so I actually grabbed Steel Balls because Steel Balls do pretty well against Vulcan. And luckily for me, I actually stick it right in front of the Rhino that he just bought. So that's going to go really well for us here. I also just grab a pack of Crawlers. And he flanks me here with some Fangs. So goodbye Rhino. And we have lots of Fangs. And we have lots of Crawlers getting in there. And these Crawlers should be able to mulch these Fangs here on the outside. And now that we have some tanks and stuff here on the left, we'll be able to take out the rest of these Stormcallers instead of getting killed by them like last time. Now, opponent put some fangs here on my flank, and that tells me that he probably plans on taking some range or mech rage or something on the fangs. Most people don't really flank with fangs. So, and he does have quite a few, so it does behoove him to take a tech. So I need to make sure that I can manage this flank. Opponent moves the Rhino, since it's immediately countered by the steel balls here. We have some choices. Let's see. We've got laser sights, nano repair kits are pretty good. Honestly, all of these are really good, but I go with the quick teleport because I want to cage my opponent in with some sledgehammers. I've seen some other people do this. I've never actually done this myself. This was my first time creating the sledgehammer cage. So, kind of an experimental game for me. See how well these sledgehammers can do when you surround your opponent. And that's my whole turn right there. So, my opponent, recognizing that I have no upshoot besides this one pack of fangs, decides to grab himself a wraith and throw the laser sights on it. Not a terrible idea. And I do have these double flanking sledgehammers, so let's see how this one goes. I also level this crawler because I'm not sure if he's going to do something with this fang or not, and I'd rather have them at level 2 to take him out. So, opponent will definitely win the round with the wraith, but hopefully we can clean up most of his stuff so that we don't take too much damage besides the wraith. Actually, getting that tower with the steel balls is good. It allows us to kill the Rhino with these level 2 tanks. And now we're on the other tower already. And actually, we'll kill everything except for the wraith. So, not too bad of a round. However, we will have to contend with a level 2 wraith, which is a little scary. Wraith takes forever to kill the tanks, but it does eventually. And now we get some free units on round 4. 4 level 2 arc lights is so much for round 4, by the way. I saw that and I was like, what? Like, is that broken? Like, should you be getting 4 level 2 arc lights on round 4? Like, what if someone's behind in chaff clear and then suddenly they're not anymore because I don't know. That seems like a lot. Anyway, I go with the level 2 melting point because he has the wraith there and I'm like, all right, I don't need it to even tech the melting point. Ideally, it will just take it out for me. Just giant level 2 melting point. My opponent goes with the Phantom Rays. And I haven't used Phantom Ray much. I have faced it quite a few times, and I know that it does pretty poorly into melting point, as well as all those other choices, actually. Of all those choices, the melting point looked best to me, just because of how big it is. And it's the perfect answer against Wraith. Now I take Mech Rage on the tanks, and I have a couple level 2 ones from last round. My opponent takes the Mech Rage on the Fangs. Now, I've just put my free Rhino from this round here to meet them, in case of any extra shenanigans. I decide to add a couple crawlers to these flanks to support the tanks, and my opponent is also going to be flanking me from the back here now with some fangs, so let's see how this one goes. These Phantom Rays are taking out the tanks on the outside, both of them, but we will get this Wraith with the melting point for sure. Got crawlers getting in here, and we're taking the tower already. So now that this tower is down, it will enable us to take this tower. The Fangs are coming to take the tower here, and it looks like we'll win the round because of the melting point. Fangs do eventually take our tower. This is going to be a relatively small win. Once we take out the Phantom Rays. They will take out quite a bit of stuff, though, before then. If not everything. Since the melter's so slow. Alright, so we take a small win. The melting point levels. So now we have a level 3 melting point. I choose to level him. Opponent being a giant specialist, I get very worried seeing this efficient giant manufacturing card. Now he skips, and honestly, he should take the efficient giant manufacturing card because he's a giant specialist. And something that I would be worried about here is these tanks are definitely taking the towers every single time. And something that he can do is he can get giants. And he has this laser sight, and right now, multi-melter is totally busted, so he decides to grab some fortresses, which isn't the worst thing. They do kill tanks pretty well, but these tanks are level 2, so they have 6,900 health. And the fortress only does 6,100 damage, so they'll be two-shotting. He could go multi-melter, and he already has the laser sight, so he could create like a giga laser multi-melter, but decides to go fortress. Now, I'm just going to answer these flanks with some sledgehammers, with Mech Rage. Hopefully that will be able to take that out. Also, chuck another sledgehammer up in the front. I level the melting point to level 3. And before the round ends, I decide to go speed to take the tower sooner, and I level this crawler to level 3. Since it keeps leveling, I might as well keep investing in it. We were able to take out the flanks. And the Rhino, the level 3 melting point, is still doing great. There's no Wraith here anymore, though. There's something that I can do that I always have in my back pocket. Is my level 2 sledgehammers have deployment module on them. In an emergency, I can sell them and throw it on the melting point and put it wherever I need to put them. But we're still clearing the board. Obviously, our only upshoot still is the level 3 melting point, but that is quite a force to deal with for him. So we take this round as well. The cage of sledgehammers is pretty good. Seen some other people use it, and this was like my first time doing it, and it's going great. We get some more choices here on round 6. Overlords pair with sledgehammers like perfectly, so I'm taking Overlord. My opponent takes the Typhoon. Kind of suspect he's going to take Overlord since it's a good defensive unit, but he decides to go with the Typhoons instead. And yeah, so I take the armor on the sledgehammers since he has these Mech Rage range fangs, but also now the Typhoons will also be doing 0 damage to my tanks, so I'm not sure if Typhoon was the best pickup here for him. I think he should have gone with the Overlord as well, since if he runs Splash, I'm not sure what he runs, but it would be easier to take out my tanks potentially. Even the ground cannon is pretty good defensive. So decides to go with Typhoon though. He's decided also to stick that deployment module Rhino over in my flank. But you'll see the power of these level 1 sledgehammers here in this turn. Okay. Also, opponent goes Sticky Oil Bomb, which is very interesting. Have not had anybody use this against me before. So let's see how that goes. I've also just added some crawlers here, and I have the new Overlord. Now he's the sticky oil guys. So let's see. It's really slowing my tanks down, but since the Typhoons are doing like 0 damage, we are getting in there still. And also these steel balls have been doing great since I added them on round 2. So look at this. In the flank with the armored and Mech Rage Sledgehammer, they take out the Rhino as well as the Fangs because the Fangs can't actually deal damage to them. And we're just taking towers up here like crazy. Rhino's still alive. I think what my opponent really needs here is multi-melter with range. So on the turn that he went Fortress, I think he really should have gone melting points. That would have definitely been a better answer. Because now he's in dire straits. He's only got 1,000 HP left. Portable shield looks good on a pair of tanks or a giant. Now, I see this mobile battleship, and I'm a little exposed here in the back. So I need to think of a way to play around that card in case he takes it. Now, he doesn't take it. He takes the portable shield, but I do have to play around it because if he decides to take it, I'm going to lose both these towers. Lickety-split. So he finally picks up the melting point, which is great. That is exactly what he needs. And he's freed up the laser sight from a pack of fangs. Also sells the rhino in my flank and decides to deployment module these fangs out of there. This is my defense against the mobilized battleship. In case he puts it like at the center or on the side, these overlords will meet it and should be able to defeat that threat. That's my whole turn there. Just a pack of fangs, 2 overlords, as well as some launcher overload on the overlords. I also am pushing for the win here, so I loan and take the temp range and the temp speed. Opponent does finally get the melting point with the laser sight and the multi-melt, but it might be too little too late. And I kind of like this oil play that he had here. Like, he has lots of good units, but not against the sledgehammers. I think he needs more melting points in the front here. The melting point is taking out the overlord, but it's able to shoot fast enough with the overload to take out the tower. And now the tanks are getting into the towers. And these launcher overlords should be able to finish him off since we have so many tanks left. But you can see how he almost does take out like all my tanks. If he had a couple more melting points in the front, I think that he is beginning to stabilize here. So on round 5, when he went Fortress, I think he should have gone melting points. And if he had like 4 or 5 of those by round 7, I don't think there's anything I can do to take him out. So let's take a look at the board here. On the turn that the opponent went with the Typhoon, I think he should have went with the Overlords because they're a better defensive unit. And I was showing armor on my sledgehammers. And I teched it the turn he took it, so it just completely shut them down. Obviously, they provide the benefit of some barriers, but without the damage against the tanks, it's not doing him much. The fortresses really didn't do much the entire game. Like, this level 1 fortress, it was out for 3 turns. It did 42k damage. This one did like nearly the same. You really don't want that. Those need to be doing a lot more damage, right? Like, so like on the last round, for example, this melting point did 100k. And this one did 115. I think if he doesn't have Fortress and he has a melting point like here and here, or yeah, here and here, like I would need to come up with some other answer. I would get range on my own melting point to try and outrange his diffraction range melting points. That is exactly what I would do, actually. The best answer to range diffraction melting points is just range melting points of your own with like EMP barrage or something like that. He tried to flank me here, but the single pack of sledgehammers was able to take out that rhino last turn. And this sledgehammer got smoked like the entire game, but provided a good distraction for these steel balls every single time to get in and take the towers, as well as these sledgehammers, which I really never needed to move. These are my techs on sledgehammer, in case anybody was wondering. I think that you can swap out the armor enhancement for like field maintenance or something. As long as you have a defensive tech on the bar, you're good. And I think that you need mech rage, range, and electromagnetic shot, because in the off chance that he does add like these melters in the front, my response would be electromagnetic shot so that they would not be able to keep multi-melting. And this melting point was just a beast. I just stuck him here and leveled him every time he could. And then he took out like the air units for me. So yeah, just a very solid game here, right? Just made a cage of sledgehammers, gave them mech rage and armor. They blew forward, took the towers, the melting points, and the overlords were able to clean up all the problem units. and we were able to take the win. Thanks very much for watching. Really appreciate everybody who sticks around to the end of these. And thank you so much for the support. It really means so much that you guys enjoy these videos. Until next time, have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.